spanning the world, to bring you the constant variety of weed, the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat, the human drama of cannabis cultivation. This is Weed TV News, Wide World of Weed.
Hello and welcome to Weed TV News, brought to you by Maximum Yield and Daisy Supply in Redway, California, and Eco Organics. I'm Dr. Strangebud, cannabis researcher and 35-year guerrilla grower during the dark ages of cultivation. And we're here today to talk the science of trichome and potency in weed. I'm going to show you how to grow the most excellent weed ever. And it's going to involve a little bit of science and what we've learned recently about the effects of specific minerals, uptake, and production of CBD and THC. I also write for Maximum Yield Magazine's HydroLife. You'll find my column in there every issue. And this will probably be an upcoming article in that magazine. Today we're going to talk about a couple of things that I've been working with Daniel Hendricks up at Daisy's about, and understanding how to make a more consistent potency in weed. We see a huge variation across the board when we start testing the weeds at different dispensaries. And out of the 10,000 tests that I've been drawing evidence from, I see a wide variation. Wide variation in THC and CBD content that I'm pretty sure at this point is due to iron and manganese deficiencies during the grow. As it turns out, these two elements are absolutely critical for the synthesis of those two particular cannabinoid compounds. Now, the way to do this is to have a complete nutrient complex. We've been using MyGrow Minerals. It's probably the safest one out there. In fact, I doubt there's probably very many products that you can say that you can buy off the shelf and drink. Cheers. Great. Can't actually taste it. There's no taste, but it's got 62 different elements in it. Totally safe, totally organic, easy to use, water-soluble minerals, and plenty of manganese and iron, as well as copper, cobalt, zinc, and 57 other ones. What we found is that during our discussion and analysis of weed strains, we're trying to do a couple of things. One is to correlate the highest levels of CBD and CBN, especially for the CBD producers, and to map a kind of new way to think about weed. I mean, lots of fragrances. That's actually 118 different terpene combinations in these plants. We're familiar with most of them. The pine scent, the sweet scent, the citrus scent, the skunk, the floral scent, the woodsy scent, all those sort of things. And we've seen a correlation between those specific terpenes and specific medical actions. And I'll talk about that in a second. What we found also is that, generally speaking, there's a problem with the calcium content in soil. I've been doing a long-term research on food and the decrease in minerals in food, and I saw this recently at a USDA analysis chart. You can see here that the calcium content in all these different vegetables has decreased drastically, 20, 30, 40% in some of these vegetables. That's bad. We've also seen a huge increase in pesticide input due to the fact that pests suddenly are attacking these plants. Well, turns out that when calcium is taken out of the soil, either rinsed out or taken out in too much food harvesting, or cannabis growing, because cannabis takes a lot of minerals out of the soil, you end up with a situation where magnesium starts being the dominant decomposition element, and that causes rot. It also causes alcohol. It causes formaldehyde to form. These gases attract the bugs. Now that's kind of interesting because we've seen 1,000 different miticides come on the market, but no one's really thought about these miticides and why they're being needed. Could it be a calcium issue? We know there's cal-mag complexes that we loved for cannabis because it helps the growth. We know that calcium is essential for the work of nitrogen in the plants along with molybdenum. But no one's really made the association because most of the cal-mags are like, not a little more than 1-to-1. Limestone, 1-to-1 calcium and magnesium. These are big problems because if you don't have a calcium, you don't have a fluffy soil. Without a fluffy soil, you don't get oxygen, you get anaerobic bacteria decomposing things, and hence the gases that attract the bugs. Wouldn't it be interesting that if it's just the calcium balance that keeps the mites off the plants. Maybe mite attacks are attacking plants that have a very low calcium content in their soil or in their growing medium. We can boost those up easily, and I'll tell you a couple of other things we need to know about. The liver needs calcium and sulfur. Both of these have been mined out of the ground, and we have a huge amount of liver disease. You can see in this chart, liver disease has accelerated rapidly during this time of pesticide use, massive nitrogen fertilizer use, lack of mineralization, and the toxins that have been put in the environment. But primarily because these two elements, calcium and sulfur, are used in the phase 1 and phase 2 detoxification pathways in the liver to get rid of toxins in the stool and in the urine. Now, that being understood, the best fertilizer addition that you can add is probably gypsum, which is calcium sulfate. Gives you the calcium, gives you the sulfur, makes all this stuff work. Now, when we add the calcium, we also increase the ability of manganese and iron getting up into the trichomes. And there's the trick, because calcium is the element that drags these things up. So if you have a calcium deficiency, you're going to get a weaker weed. Now, we've seen this quite evident in these two particular strains, ACDC and Harlequin. These are two very popular analgesic strains, and these strains have a very high CBD content. ACDC has a higher CBD content than Harlequin. Harlequin has a higher pinene content and associated THC content than ACDC. Again, getting back to this idea that these fragrances are going to tell you if you got more THC or less THC or more CBD or less CBD, and that, as you can see in these further tests of ACDC and Harlequin in the long-term study, there's a wide variation compared to I think it's Science Hill that did these two beautiful color charts, but you can see a wide variation in the output of THC and CBD. Now, this is, of course, due to this lack of mineral input and a secondary lack of having a proper calcium to magnesium ratio, which is about 7-to-1, actually. Albrecht, Reams, Rodale, all these guys in the last century understood this. Then it got lost. Then we end up with food without calcium and soil that has a sulfur burnout because of too much nitrogen. And you end up with liver disease, and you end up with problems with cannabis. Our objective here is to make the greatest, most excellent weed in the world. And that's why I work with Daniel up at Daisy's, because that's where the Humboldt growers are, the best weed in the world and the best quality and care for the soil. And we're helping those guys make the most excellent weed on planet Earth. Now, if you want to get a hold of Daisy's to get a hold of my grow minerals, talk to Daniel. I'm sure he'll help you out. And you know it's totally safe. You can feed it to your cats, your dogs, your chickens, your horses, your pigs, and all that stuff. You'll see them like it better than just plain water. And again, check this out sometime. Go out to your dispensary or even check your own weed and see if you have a particular interest in a particular fragrance in that dispensary or a particular strain you're growing. It may indicate a medical issue that you may benefit by using it for. But you can certainly identify which ones are going to give you couch lock and which ones are going to give you giggles. So this is Dr. Strangebud for Weed TV, Wide World of Weed, and I hope to see you next time.